guys, welcome to this video, and I'm going to be showing you how to start thinking in Dorian. And this is an absolutely crucial thing for guitarists because the theory is one thing, and a lot of people can get their head around the theory. You know, it's the second degree of a scale or whatever. But to actually apply it to the guitar is a whole nother thing. So I'm going to be giving you 3 steps that you can take, super simple steps, to start actually understanding Dorian today. Now, just before we carry on, don't forget to head on over to the website where you can download that backing track that you heard totally free, so that you've actually got a really cool jam track that you can use these ideas to play over. Okay, so the first thing to realize, the first thing to try and adjust your thought process on, is that Dorian is its own separate key. It's not just the second degree of the major scale. Now, I can understand why everyone thinks like that, and I know that I certainly did, because the way that you learn the modes is that they're all degrees of the major scale. So, you know, if you've got a G major scale, for example, the Dorian, in theory, is that scale starting from the second degree, and in theory ending on the second degree, and you get Dorian, the A Dorian in that instance. And that's absolutely correct theoretically, but it doesn't really help us practically, because what ends up happening when you think like that and you're trying to then solo with Dorian is that you really just end up soloing in G major. And you tend to end on those major root notes, or you'll play licks that you've learned in major, or whatever it is. You really can't shake that feeling of major, even if it's a really Dorian style backing track. So if you try to rethink it like this, if I said to you, you know, play in the key of E minor now, okay, you wouldn't say, okay, well, E minor is the 6th degree of the G major scale, and therefore I'm going to play in G major. You know, you wouldn't do that, would you? You've learned minor separately, so you'd probably just go straight up here and play that E minor pentatonic or whatever else it is, but you'd very much be thinking in E minor, okay? You're not going to think in G major. So just try and rearrange your brain to be thinking, well, if you do that for E minor, or for the natural minor, or the Aeolian, as it's called in kind of modal terms, why not do that for Dorian? The second step here is that Dorian is a minor mode. Okay, so it's another reason why you wouldn't necessarily want to relate it to the natural major, because that's major. You know, that's going to sound major. This is a minor mode. We want to relate it, if anything, to the natural minor. Okay, so what I would do, your first step in terms of a practical thing on the guitar, is I would actually take the A minor scale. So we're going to work with A Dorian here, okay? So we're going to take the A minor scale and just play it in 1 octave on the neck, like this. And your A minor scale, in terms of its theoretical notes, is root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, flat 6th, flat 7, and then root, okay? And in terms of just literal notes on the guitar, you've got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? That's your A natural minor scale, otherwise known as the A Aeolian scale in modal terms, okay? Horrible spelling, but that's the word. And now let's look at the A Dorian scale. So the A Dorian scale, again, in theory terms, it's essentially the G major scale starting and ending on A, but we're going to try and think of it a little separately now, okay? So we're going to go, okay, the A Dorian scale is root, 2nd, flat 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, okay? Flat 7, root, okay? So the big difference between those two scales, between the A minor and the A Dorian, is that 6. In A minor, you've got a flat 6. In A Dorian, you've got to raise a major 6th, okay? And that is therefore this key note that you want to be targeting. So you want to be thinking, you know, okay, if I'm going to relate it to anything to get a better understanding on the guitar, it should be my A minor scale. And there's actually only 1 note difference between the A minor and A Dorian. And that is the note that's going to make the big difference when it comes to actually improvising on the guitar. So we've now got step 1, where we're thinking of it as its own separate key. We've done step 2, where we related it to the natural minor so we could see the big difference. And now step 3 is creating something very practical on the guitar in terms of a box and a shape that you can now use. Okay? So for this step to work, you need to know 2 things. You need to know the A minor pentatonic, and we're just going to work in this box for now. Okay, so box 1. like that, which I'm assuming you all know. And the box 1, you could call it, for the A minor scale, which I'll do this nice and slowly, but it looks like this. Come back down. Okay. If you're unsure about any of these shapes, just head on over to the website via the link, and you'll have a full kind of diagram for these shapes, so it's really, really nice and clear. Interactive diagram, in fact. Very, very cool. So that's your box. So you've got pentatonic box 1, and you've got the kind of A minor shape 1, okay? Now, those two you need to know, because when we're trying to really find Dorian and find our own feel for Dorian, so that we really start to think in Dorian, it's the relationship between those two that's going to make the difference in terms of a practical setting, okay? So the great news is that even in Dorian, when we looked at the scale, it was just the 6th that made the difference, isn't it? So when we're looking at the A minor pentatonic, you know, that's got a root, a flat 3rd, a 4th, a 5th, a flat 7, and a root, which all those notes are in A Dorian. So you can use your A minor pentatonic. So that's where we're going to kind of build from, because we all like to use that one. And now we're going to, instead of playing that first shape of the natural minor, we're going to play a Dorian shape, okay? Where all we're doing is almost exactly the same, but that 6th is going to be raised. And the shape looks like this, okay? So it's going to be... And instead of going here, for that flat 6, we're going to go back here onto the 4th fret of the D string for the raised 6th, and then carry on. And then instead of going here for the flat 6, we're going to go to the 6 there. So let me just do that shape again without kind of talking over it. Come back down, and I'm just going to point out that it's major 6, major 6. Okay, so it's that note, in this case an F sharp, which is going to be our real target note. And hopefully, if you guys are kind of at that level, you might be playing through that thinking, I know that shape. I already know that shape. That is a very familiar shape to me. And it will be, because essentially that's the 3rd shape along. So if you're kind of doing your pentatonic boxes and you go up to box 3, and you play the natural minor scale from that box, that's the shape we just used. So we're taking a shape, the 3rd shape of the natural minor scale, and actually just reapplying it in a different part of the neck, and it makes a Dorian scale. So we've got this great, easy to use scale that we're already familiar with, and by putting it here, we're really defining that that's Dorian over this kind of key. Okay, so here we go. And the way I've learnt it means that I know that that F sharp note, that note within the scale, is going to be my absolute target block. You know, if I really want to pull out the essence of that Dorian sound, then I'm going to really target that 6th, or in this instance, that F sharp, as I go through it. Okay, so now we've got the steps, we're going to do a little bit of improvisation to see how you can actually apply these. Okay, and first of all, I'll do the improvisation over the backing track, and then I'll just kind of talk you through it after that. Now, one little thing to mention here is that there's 2 settings that this can be used in. One is playing over a backing track in A Dorian. In this case, we're doing the key of A Dorian, but of course it can be any Dorian key, B Dorian, C Dorian, whatever. Okay, but that is a set of chords that fit into the key of A Dorian. And really, what that means is we're doing chords that are from the G major harmonized scale, okay, but basing it all around A. Okay, and that is a crucial difference and something we'll talk about in another video. For now, just bear in mind that that's an A Dorian backing track, so it's going to be relatively nice to kind of use this over. The other setting is, of course, taking a chord by chord basis. So if you're over any minor chord, you can switch to Dorian if you like. And that's going to be super, super crucial with this technique, knowing, you know, that you've got this flat 6th versus the major 6th and the switch between those two. That's going to be massive if you quickly want to switch to Dorian over a specific chord. In this setting today, in this video, we're just going to be doing it over that Dorian backing track. so let's just quickly talk through that improvisation so you're really clued up as to what I was doing there. I was only using the box that we've learned, okay? And I was very much using the combination of the A minor pentatonic and the A Dorian, which we've now established is this box, okay? However you number it or whatever you think about it, we can know that it's basically the natural minor with the sixth raised rather than flattened, okay? And so as I was kind of going through there, I was always aware that that's the note that I want to be hitting regularly so that I don't kind of lose that Dorian feel, okay? So for example, I might do a little pentatonic lick, which is fine, okay? And that's going to sound really great because all of those notes work, but it doesn't really draw out the most from that Dorian sound. So I might, at the end of that pentatonic lick, just drop down to that F sharp, that sixth, okay? And then I'll run the scale. And again, just keep hitting. I'm not going to hit it every single time because, you know, we're not going to go over the top here, but I am going to regularly hit that F sharp, that raised sixth, so that I hit that Dorian sound, okay? So again, I'll be doing a little bit of a pentatonic. And then I'll be hitting that sixth. And again, just by bringing them in and out, you don't lose yourself, because obviously when you first learn the kind of modal scales, you can very easily just end up just playing a scale. You know, it's very easy to do something very unmusical, just essentially just going through the scale. So by basing it in that pentatonic where you've maybe got a few more licks, you're a bit more comfortable, but just referencing that note that you really like, and then occasionally bringing out the kind of scale runs, you're going to really create something that is Dorian, okay? And the best thing about this whole thing is that we're not even suggesting or thinking about G major, the relative major. Everything we're doing, we're thinking A minor, okay? Or specifically A Dorian, which means your natural inclination to end on the root notes of A is still there, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want, rather than G, of course. And you know, you've got loads of great ideas in minor that you can now suddenly just adapt to make it sound more Dorian. And something I will just end on here is that if you are playing over just the vamp of A, you know, so for example, rather than a whole A Dorian backing track, you're playing over a chord chart where as you get to the minor chords, you might want to suddenly jump into Dorian. You can easily do that, using this method. So let's just say, for example, I am just playing in A minor. You know, my chord progression is A minor to the 4 chord, which is D minor, and I'm doing that progression. You know, when I'm on the A minor, for example, you could do it on the D minor if you want, but when I'm on the A minor, as well as using my minor scale, I might occasionally just want to jump to that Dorian. And I can just know that very confidently that I can do that just by targeting that sixth. So I'm playing in, let's say for example, my A minor here like this. And then I just suddenly hit that note there over the A. It's, you know, it's just pulling it slightly out of its comfort zone. You get a whole different vibe because you've just hit a Dorian sound, but of course then you need to reset when you go up to the next chord. So that's an approach you can take on a chord by chord basis, which is really, really cool. And because you've learned it this way, it's actually super easy to do. Okay then guys, that's all from me. I really hope that's helped you understand Dorian a little bit better and giving you some really practical advice that you can use on the guitar. Remember to head over to the website where you can find the full backing track to download and play across, and I'll see you all again next time.